Welcome to Everyday Dharma Talks, where silence becomes insight. I remember a time years ago when I was preparing for a presentation. It wasn't just any presentation. It was the kind of meeting where the trajectory of a project and perhaps even a career felt like it was hanging in the balance. In the days leading up to it, a storyteller awoke inside my mind, and it was a master of horror stories. It began with whispers in the morning. As I first opened my eyes, "You're not ready for this. You don't have what it takes." As I reviewed my slides, the storyteller would sit beside me, pointing out every potential flaw. "That slide is confusing. They'll ask you a question about that data point, and you won't know the answer. You'll freeze." The night before the stories became vivid cinematic productions. I could almost see the faces in the conference room. The unimpressed stares, the subtle shakes of the head. I could feel the heat of embarrassment on my cheeks. Hear the deafening silence after I fumbled a key phrase. The storyteller convinced me that not only would I fail, but that this failure would be a public confirmation of a deep-seated inadequacy I had always feared was true. I tried to fight it. I told myself, "Be positive. You've done this before. You are prepared." But this was like trying to shout over a hurricane. The storyteller's voice was relentless. Its logic twisted but strangely compelling. It was using my own intelligence against me, creating intricate and plausible scenarios of disaster. I barely slept. The next morning, standing in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie, my hands were trembling. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. The storyteller was at its peak performance, delivering its final terrifying monologue about certain doom. And then something shifted. Not because I suddenly felt confident. Not because I found a magic solution. It was because I was simply too exhausted to fight anymore. I sank down onto the edge of the bed and just gave up. I let the feelings wash over me. The fear, the tightness in my chest, the frantic energy in my veins. And in that moment of surrender, a new thought appeared, quiet and gentle, beneath the storm of the storyteller's voice. It wasn't a thought of defiance. It was a question. What is all this fear trying to do? I listened, not to the stories of failure, but to the feeling underneath them. And I began to understand. The storyteller wasn't an enemy. It wasn't trying to hurt me. It was trying to protect me. In its own misguided, terrified way. It was trying to prepare me for the worst possible outcome so that I wouldn't be hurt. It was afraid of judgment, of rejection, of being seen as a fraud. It was pulling every fire alarm in the building because it cared so much about keeping me safe. I looked at my reflection again. I didn't feel strong, but I felt a strange sense of compassion for this frantic narrator in my own mind. I whispered just to myself, "Thank you for trying to protect me. I know you're scared, but I've got it from here." The fear didn't vanish. The anxiety didn't disappear. But its nature changed. It was no longer a monster to be slain. It was a frightened child in my own heart that needed reassurance. And strangely, in accepting it, I found the space to breathe. The presentation still happened. I don't even remember if it went perfectly. But I remember walking in with a quiet companion instead of a screaming tormentor. The summary of this experience is this: our anxiety is not the enemy. It is a storyteller, and often a terrifying one. But beneath its scary stories, there is always a deeper message. A message about what we truly care about and what we are trying to protect. The healing isn't in silencing the storyteller, but in learning to listen to the message beneath its words. We spend so much of our lives seeking satisfaction by trying to win battles against our own minds. We believe that if we can just defeat the anxious thoughts, or suppress the sad feelings, or ignore the inner critics, we will finally find peace. This is the search for a fleeting pleasure. It's the brief relief we feel when a distraction works, or when we successfully numb a difficult emotion. But this kind of satisfaction is like constantly hitting the snooze button on a very loud alarm clock. The alarm rings. This is our anxiety, our discomfort. It's the scary story our mind is telling us. So we hit snooze. For 9 minutes there is silence. Ah, relief. But we know the alarm will ring again, perhaps even louder. And we live in a state of low grade tension, just waiting for it to go off. This is not rest. This is not peace. This is just a temporary pause in the struggle. True and sustainable satisfaction is something entirely different. It is not found in hitting the snooze button. It is found in gently sitting up and looking at the alarm clock to understand why it is ringing. Its purpose is not to torment you with noise. Its purpose is to wake you up. It is signaling that it's time for something important. Our anxiety is this alarm. The scary story is just the noise it makes. The true and sustainable satisfaction comes from asking, what is this feeling trying to wake me up to? When we do this, we are no longer at war with ourselves. We are not trying to get rid of a part of our experience. Instead, we are becoming curious about it. We are treating it as a messenger, not an attacker. The satisfaction that comes from this practice is not a loud, exciting victory. It is a quiet, deep, and abiding sense of inner harmony. It is the peace that comes from knowing you can be present with your entire self, the calm parts, the joyful parts, and yes, even the frightened storytelling parts. It is the end of the inner wars. Perhaps you know this storyteller too. Perhaps it tells you stories about your work, your relationships, your health, or your future. Perhaps you too have been trying to fight it, to argue with it, or to run from it, only to find yourself exhausted and still afraid. If this is true, I would like to offer a gentle invitation. An invitation not to fight harder, but to listen differently. The next time you feel that familiar tightness in that buzzing of anxious energy, the next time the storyteller begins its tale of doom, see if you can try this. First, just pause. You don't have to do anything or fix anything. Simply stop for one moment. Second, take a single conscious breath. Feel the air enter your body and feel it leaves. This breath is an anchor to the present moment, a safe harbor from the storm of the story. Third, acknowledge the feeling without judgment. You can say to yourself, silently and kindly, this is anxiety. Fear is here. Naming it without labeling it as bad removes so much of its power. You are not the anxieties. You are the one who is aware of the anxiety. And finally, ask a gentle question, with a spirit of warm curiosity. As you would to a scared child, ask the feeling, what are you trying to protect me from? Lord, what is it that you care about so much? You don't need to get an immediate, clear answer in words. The shift happens in the asking. The act of asking this question changes your entire relationship with the experience. You are moving from a position of resistance to a position of compassion. You are turning towards yourself, not away from yourself. This is not a trick to make the anxiety go away. It is a practice to learn how to be with it and to hear the deeper, well-intentioned message it carries. Over time, you will find that the storyteller's voice softens because it finally feels heard. This practice of listening doesn't require a quiet room or a meditation cushion. Meaning is found in the middle of our ordinary lives. The opportunity to practice is always here. Imagine you are stuck in traffic and you're running late for an appointment. The anxious storyteller starts its narrative. They're going to be so angry. I'm so irresponsible. This is a disaster. The feeling of panic rises. Here is the moment. You can pause. Take one breath. Acknowledge the feeling. This is the fear of being late. And then you can ask, gently, what do I care about so much right now? The answer will come not in words, but in a felt sense. You care about being on time. You care about respecting the other person. You care about being seen as reliable. Suddenly, the self-attack transforms into a recognition of your own values. You are not a bad person. You are a person who cares. The panic may not vanish, but it is now held in a much larger space of self-compassion. Or perhaps you're at a social gathering. and you feel a wave of anxiety. The storyteller whispers no one wants to talk to you. You don't belong here. You're being awkward. Instead of reaching for your phone as a shield, you can try the practice. Pause, breathe. Acknowledge this is social anxiety. This is the fear of rejection. And ask the question, what is this feeling trying to protect? It's trying to protect your deep human need for connection and belonging. It's so afraid of being hurt that it would rather you stay hidden and safe. Seeing this, you can offer yourself a moment of kindness. Maybe you still don't talk to anyone. That's okay. But you are no longer at war with yourself in the corner of the rooms. You are simply with yourself. Even in the simple act of drinking your morning coffee. If a worry about the day arises, a story about all the things that could go wrong, you can notice it. Feel the warmth of the mug in your hands. Feel the taste of the coffee. And acknowledge the storyteller who is just trying, in its own way, to prepare you for the challenges ahead. Thank it for its diligence. And then gently bring your attention back to the simple, real and present warmth in your hands. This is how we find our way back home. Not by building a fortress against our own mind, but by opening the door and inviting all parts of ourselves in for a conversation. Thank you for following the podcast. We will meet again in the next story. Be well.